Hey guys, T2RX6 here, back for another Transformers review. And today we're going to be taking a look at MP-10 Convoy, or as I grew up calling him, Optimus Prime. And I gotta say, in anticipation for this review, I've pulled a lot of stuff, and I don't think I've ever had to put this much stuff back after a review. So hopefully along the way you guys find some kind of size comparison that really works for you. So, let's not focus on Optimus here first, because, let's face it, he's probably the meat of the review. Let's look at his trailer and the accessories that come with him. Let's start looking at Spike. Spike is very small. If anyone has played the game HeroClix, here he is next to a HeroClix of Superman. So he's a little bit bigger than the scale of HeroClix, but really not that much different. If you're not a HeroClix player, then let's go with the RTS Optimus Prime. And you can see the size difference there. And finally, something that almost every Transformers fan probably has on hand. Let's go with the old Deluxe Starscream. So he's very tiny. I meant to pull a Human Alliance figure, but unfortunately, since I don't care about the riders for Human Alliance, they're somewhere in the bottom of a box. Just note that the Human Alliance guy is about this tall, comparatively. So this is really small. And now the trailer is supposed to be, well, the whole thing is supposed to be kind of scaled to the Alternity line of toys. So here's Alternity Optimus Prime in the silver colors. And if I were to stick Spike here, right next to the car, he is horribly out of scale with the car. So this Spike is actually way out of scale with this Optimus Prime. But you know what? It looks okay. And I suppose if you really wanted to, you could stick him in the passenger side of this car. Not very well, mind you. But it could be done. With Spike, you also get Roller. And Spike is conveniently sized that he can sit right in Roller if you want. Of course, if I have the hands correct, but he can sit right in Roller. Now, Roller does come with a couple extra little tricks here. For instance, you can flip up this little panel here, and some of these panels are really tough to do if you don't have any fingernails, which I do not. And then you kind of rotate this back. This whole top assembly here is going to rotate around, and then close up, and you just fold this flap down without popping it off like I just did. And what happens is you can actually lock the trailer on the Roller, or you can put Optimus Prime's gun on here. It's really not all that interesting. You just kind of slot the trailer in to Roller. And one last thing before we're finished with Roller here. Here he is next to his very minimalist G1 self. This is actually from the reissue Optimus Prime. The size is not really too much different. The complexity obviously is vastly different. Now, on a side note, I saw people asking online if Spike can actually fit inside Rodimus. And the feet pretty much do get in the way, but if you push the one foot down a little, which is going to make Rodimus sit funny, but you really can't notice it. But if you do put it down just a little, you can kind of put him in lying down and actually close up Rodimus with him. Let's actually turn to the trailer. Now the trailer has this really awesome, you know, Prime's always had these flip out stands to help support the sides of the trailer as you open it. So when you flip them out, the little stands come down here. And I think that's a really cool feature. As you can see on the back, you got some nice detailing on the red lights here. And since we're getting ready to open it, I'm just going to leave the stands out. But I'm going to show you how this opens. Now, you do have, these are kind of flexible a little bit. Not too much, don't bend them a whole bunch. But there's tabs underneath, so you need to flex them a little. And then kind of pull on the sides, and you can see there's that little ridge. You won't be able to open it without it. Now, like I said, this Optimus is sized for Alternity figures. That is the intention of the trailer, is to make it sized for Alternity. You also have this ramp here, which pulls out and then just folds down. Sorry for my finger there. And of course your alternatives are not going to be able to drive down the ramp. It just doesn't work that way, unfortunately. So, but it is sized for alternity, and if you're the type of person who likes making displays, you can kind of get some cool displays even though it just looks like the GTR took a nosedive into the ground. To open this guy up, it's very similar to Generation 1 Prime. You just kind of use a little bit of muscle because it's tabbed at the top there. And then it just flips open. And the detailing on this is just amazing. I'm going to flip everything up here to put it kind of in its little base mode thing. But just look at all that detailing that they've put inside this trailer. I mean, I don't know what any of it is, but they certainly have a lot of it. You have inside these little like bays here with computers on them. You can flip them up and Spike can actually sit inside those little holes. There's two of them, one down here also. You do have the Teletran 1 here, and just like Generation 1 Optimus Prime with the little top piece. Now, it doesn't have the little spinner thing, but it does rotate at the top. No missiles to go with here. I don't know, I don't really like spring-loaded missiles, but this is also a place that they wouldn't really be overly intrusive. And you have the claw arm, which is double jointed here, so you can get all kinds of poses. The claw is jointed, it opens, so you have lots to do with that. Now you also have the ability to open the cockpit here, and again, Spike can sit in it. Now also, one thing that the G1 trailer did that I don't think a lot of people realized when they were kids that it actually did it, but what you can do is there's these little tabs here, and they're extremely hard to do, and I probably won't be doing this too often because I really fear that I'll be breaking some of this plastic. And you just kind of pull it on in. I don't know if it's going to get better with time or what, but it really kind of scares me, so I'm not going to be doing it. And then you can close up the trailer around the Teletran unit, and that was another feature that was Diaclone related, was to have this like attack mode thing on top of the trailer, and it's here. I mean, Generation 1 Prime did it, this guy does it. And now we get to fight with the trailer again. If you do, I did it kind of the wrong way. If you're pulling, it's not going to work, but if you put a little downward force on it, just to flex the plastic down a tiny bit, it'll work okay. And we'll put this back, and that pretty much wraps it up for the trailer. Well, not really. Let's put it back to standing up here. And that's this repair bay mode. And you can take Optimus, and of course you can stand in his trailer, and you could have, you know, the drone unit here repairing him, or, you know, sending the weaponry down, whatever you really want to do. It also should be noted that these platforms, the one on the side that holds the axe and stuff, and then there's another on the other side, they're really like kind of like bays, I guess, for the people who would be controlling the mechs. So that's kind of cool that that's there. Just a nice little touch that's not really overly necessary. Alright, so here's Optimus Prime, and he has just a really great looking mode. There's almost no angle you can view him from that he looks weird. Even the back is, in my opinion, fully successful. The only issue that I think I could pick out with him is that his head feels just a smidgen too small for the body. Not bad. Actually, aside from, I'd say, MP-10, most Optimus Prime toys have actually felt like they've had too small of a head in relation to the width of the shoulders, because you got just such broad shoulders. If the shoulders weren't there, it wouldn't be so bad. Now, this one also has an incredible amount of articulation. And because of that, I find him to be a little bit more floppy. He wants to kind of follow in directions, but he happens to have these really great heel spurs. So when you get him in a position you want, all you have to do is just kind of push the heel spur down, and he's gonna stay there regardless of what you do. So just don't put him down and just let him go. Take him and make sure you push those heel spurs down, because otherwise you're gonna get some interesting things happen with him. Let's go back up to the top here. Now, his head sculpt is real nice. It doesn't have the moving visor gimmick. He's actually got transparent blue from what I can tell in there, but there's no way to pipe the light in, which I think is a slight oversight. I feel like they could have put maybe like just a little bit peeking through the top here or the back or something. Because as it is, he just doesn't have any like look to his eyes. It's just vacant looking. I'm kind of hoping that a third-party company will come along and give a different head that we can use. I really like this head, but if I could replace this head with one that had either light piping or that I really wouldn't be opposed to painting, I could do that. I may still paint this one, to be honest. I did do some painting on the top here, just because these were all just red, like the top of the truck. So to pick them out, I gave it a little bit of silver and transparent orange on top of the silver, just to give it a little extra details. The articulation's pretty good. You can leave the arms out, which looks really weird, but they help with articulation. That's about as high up as you're going to get his arms, which is probably the biggest hindrance I've seen with him, is that you can't give him crazy like arm straight extending sideways. But you do have this to give him some posability. He does have a 360 here, an upper swivel, an elbow, and a wrist swivel. And then because of transformation, this does rotate back, which can be used to give him, you know, as long as you're not looking at it from a certain angle, it's not too bad. And so you can give him some side, a side pose there, I guess. You do have the waist rotation, which is real nice. You do have legs. He can get to about there, and actually I do believe he can actually hold himself up doing a kick if you really want to. You probably have to mess with the foot a little here just to balance it right. Up. He also has a rotation at the knee, bend at the knee, which bends that far back and that far forward. I don't know why you would want to do that, but I just think it, you know, just doesn't limit things as much, so that's okay. You have ankles tilt. It actually swivels out this way. You can actually pull it out from the side of the truck, which is part of the transformation here, and then actually like rotate it even more to a ridiculous amount, because the front of the foot and the back heel spur are both supposed to fold in for transformation, but that actually gives them a really nice stability, is to be able to adjust those as you need to. So it's just really, really nice when it comes to all that. Head's on a ball joint, of course. Now, what is Prime without his weapons? Let's go with the axe first. Now, the axe only appeared one time in all of Generation 1. What you're going to do is take his hands, and I'll get back to his hands in a second, and just fold everything in, and you'll see, unlike the other Optimus where you would actually retract his hand, this one actually just has like a carving in here. I don't know if you can see that on video or not. And it actually just plugs in right over top of his thumb. And ultimately is not as convincing to me as the other one was, but that's okay. I don't really care for this axe too much anyway. You can rotate it around depending which way you want him to have it. So, and that's just because his wrist swivels. So let's put that aside. And let's look at his hands here in particular. So, his hands are kind of like the Seekers in the sense that you have the articulated, the lower three are molded together, and then the top one, it's kind of hard to do sometimes. That one goes separate, and it actually has another piece that rotates in the front. And I think the Seekers did it, but I feel like this guy does it better. His thumb, however, is stationary, which I'm okay with, because the thumbs always seem really awkwardly positioned on anything I can position them. So I don't mind that they're stationary. Of course, what's Optimus Prime without his matrix? And this guy has one, but I cannot get his out without issues. So that's about as far as I can get. This little black piece actually sticks in really well. So what I need is a tool. This is a seam ripper, and I actually have to kind of transform my Optimus just a little bit to get it out there, but I need that clearance so I can actually get this in underneath and just kind of help move it up just a little bit, and then possibly, there we go, and we'll put that all back together, and you can see he does indeed have his matrix. And while we have the tool handy, we might as well pull it out. Now what I like about this guy is he has that double door, which is something that Optimus had in the movie too, except I think one, if I recall correct, flipped downwards. I can't remember, but I know he had two doors. So here's the matrix, and the whole outside is definitely a die cast. I'm not sure about the inside. It's hard to tell because it's painted. It's certainly not as cold as the outside, so I think that the inside is plastic, and then you obviously have the jewel, which is transparent, and it looks real nice, but it doesn't do that pull apart. Now, we've seen various other incarnations. Here's the matrix from the Toys R Us, Rodimus, the one that came with Optimus, the original one, to pull apart. This one, like I said, doesn't pull apart. And then here is the actual Rodimus Prime matrix, just to show you the size differences. The last thing to show you about robot mode is, you may have seen this piece sticking out his back. Well, what you do is you rotate that down and you push on that little piece, because it's actually the bottom of his gun. And then you close that all up, and there is a button on the back here, this little gray piece. You just hit it, and Optimus Prime's gun flips out. And like Rodimus, he has the little tabs in here, so you just kind of get it in position, and you plug it into his hand, and that's a solid grip. And I like that, because MP-10 could never hold his gun in a way that was convincing. Now, I've seen some people say that when they try to close up his pointer finger, his little piece of the finger comes off, and I don't understand that, because you don't need to close it all the way. He's got his finger on the trigger, so you don't need it all the way in like this. If you were actually holding a gun, it'd be something like that. So why you have a problem doing that is beyond me. I can't figure it out. But yeah, here he is holding his gun, and that is great. And you can leave these out if you want, or put them in. I don't remember if I said that. So let's go and look at some size comparisons. Now, the most obvious size comparison they could do, obviously, is going to be with MP-10. And you can see that MP-10 stands above him probably a good 2 inches or so. MP-10's a lot heavier, but ultimately I think the posability of the new one is much nicer, and I actually like the head sculpt of the new one better too. Let's move on to one I was super curious of, and that is the PP-01 Faith Leaders, or in this case Ultra Leader. And you can see that now he stands probably about an inch taller than the Ultra Leader. And I like that. I mean, he's just a lot smaller here. It's kind of like iGear said, we're gonna make a smaller Prime, and we're just gonna steal your, steal what you did with MP-10. And then Takara Hasbro, well, Takara was like, well, we're gonna make a smaller Prime and make it better. And you can just really see how much better it is. This is really, I mean, it's a nice transformation. I like MP-10, but really this guy just doesn't look the part compared to the new Optimus. So we'll put him here. Getting a little bit smaller now. We will go to our classics, because everybody should have a classics Optimus Prime. Sorry about that, I'm trying to adjust the camera so we can get everything in the shot here. And going all the way back to the guy who started it all. I don't have his fist on, this is actually the reissue. Mine is actually locked away somewhere. And we can get even smaller by going to the hybrid style Optimus Prime, who is a really neat $50 version of Optimus Prime if you've never seen it. And getting even smaller, we can go to Legends Optimus Prime, who's already made his appearance here. And he doesn't like standing. I like this mold, but I don't like trying to pose it. And then we can get even smaller with World's Smallest Optimus Prime. And then for size comparison, let's just put Spike in there, just so you can see how small he is. So, here it is, the Optimus Prime, quote-unquote, family. And Ultra Magnus sticks out like a sore thumb with all that red. But, yeah, that's a good size comparison, I think. I think somewhere along the line you should find something that you own and can get an idea of how tall he is. Alright, so continuing with size comparisons, let's take a look at two Masterpiece Autobots that were kind of designed to a different scale than MP-10 and we got some complaints about. The first one being Rodimus. Now you can see that Rodimus does stand just a fraction of a bit taller than Optimus Prime. Very little. The spoiler actually is probably the tallest part. Starting to lose my voice it seems. But it's good. They're a good scale to each other. Hot Rod ends up being just a tiny bit shorter. So it works. And finally, you've got Grimlock, who always felt really small, but now he looks pretty good sitting next to Optimus Prime. Since they were sized to go with Alternity, we only have Optimus and Megatron and then Cliffjumper and Bumblebee and the Seekers, but the Seekers feel real small in car form. But Cliffjumper and Bumblebee, I only have Cliffjumper, actually seem like a pretty good size for a mini-bot compared to Optimus Prime. Okay guys, so let's do some transformation now. Let's take the gun off and we can store this away again. And just to show you how that folds back up, you take it, fold that in, and then just kind of push this forward and it'll all just fold together here. Then don't drop Optimus. Open up the back, take it so this part that juts out is down, push it in, and it's done. So moving on to Optimus, let's start with rotating the waist. His transformation here is not the most complex one. I would say he's a little bit harder than Grimlock, and I like that. Some people don't seem to like it because it's too easy or whatever, but after dealing with Masterpiece Megatron and fighting with Rodimus Prime, yeah, I'll take an easier transformation on an expensive toy so I don't risk breaking anything. I folded in the feet while I was talking here. Another thing people don't seem to like is that you can still see his feet, and I believe that was actually in G1 too, is that you could see that, but I can't remember. To retract his legs, he's got these little gray buttons. You push them in, and it takes usually a little bit of fiddling for me, but you give it a little push and then it'll slide on in and up, and again push it in, and I usually have to pull up and push in too, and then it'll slide up. I forgot a step. what you gotta do also is take these front panels here and rotate these down, and that's what I ended up forgetting to do. And these are gonna be what ultimately holds the legs together. They don't necessarily hold too well, but we'll get back to that after. So now you got these together. Take these, kind of move them out of the way like that, and then take these panels covering the wheels and rotate them in, and rotate this one in. We're not finished with the feet, but we'll get back to that because the last parts I like to do when everything has come together pretty well. Leave everything like this, and let's go to the hands. The hands are very simple to transform in this case. All you're gonna do is take, well, they're not actually that simple, I guess. They're just easier to do than the old Prime. You have to kind of put a little bit of pressure on the outside of this arm here. You can see a thing there, and then kind of grip it from in here. And you'll see when it pops loose, there's actually like a little tab in there that's holding it in place. And that is kind of the biggest thing. These were real tight when I got them. After using it a little bit, it's become a little better. So once you have that open, just take it. Everything's gonna flip around, and it goes nice inside there. To me, MPO1 with that sliding arm gimmick, sometimes it got a little bit caught in there, and I didn't necessarily like that. Once everything's in, you can just kind of close this up, and you can see that's formed the side of the truck. And the last thing to do is to take this piece and rotate it on out. Now this piece is also one that scares me a little, just because how it's molded. I don't want to see it ever snap off, so be careful when you're working with this piece, because I feel it's more fragile than the rest. So we'll repeat it, do it for the other side here. Flip it in, close it up, pull it out. And these are getting a little easier the more I do it. It's just, it is a scary piece. Open up the chest, and you would think that this guy borrows a lot from MPO1, but it's actually pretty different. And you have to open this. So again, mine doesn't like to open very well, so I have to start transforming the top and use my little tool, and I push that open. You're gonna leave that black panel up with the matrix exposed, basically. Okay, so after you have them like this and you've got everything open, what you're gonna do is take like this spine area and kind of like accordion it down into here, and then push back, and you can see the little tabs in the slot. Just kind of push them in, and that'll put it all in the right position that you need to do the rest. From here, take these panels and you're gonna fold this down. Just make sure that these back pieces aren't stuck on your arm, because they do tend to get caught there, so you probably want to rotate them around. And just bring these all the way down. These will not go down if you don't have this spine stuff in the right area. It'll get caught up somewhere. So do the same for the other side. Bring it around. Rotate these, and you kind of have to watch these chrome bits. You are going to need to pull them out anyway, so you might as well do it now. But watch the chrome bits to make sure that you don't get them caught on anything, and just leave them like that. So again, open them on up and swing them around. Now we're going to take the chest, and this actually just flips down. It seemed, like I said, it seemed similar to what was going on with the original masterpiece, but it's not. It's very different. And then finally, the very annoying headpiece of the original masterpiece just flips right in, no questions asked. And you can close up the top if you really want to, just to get a little bit out of the way. So you're almost done here. And now this to me is the hardest part here. You've got the arms here, and you've got to rotate them around, squeeze them up like this, and then kind of slowly work them around while turning the bottom here. And because you have this little tab here, it's sometimes hard to clear the cab, but it'll fit if you mess around with it just a little. Now on mine here, the one side likes to pop out just a little, but it all gets solved once everything gets put together. You can see how it's kind of pushing out. So again, take your side, slide the arm up, rotate it, kind of push it on in, and rotate these pieces on around while you're working with it. Then you can sure everything up. And then you take these pieces, you close them on up, and as you can hear, they're horribly stiff. And just kind of close up all the chrome bits here, which actually lock everything in place. Rotate it down, lock everything in place. And Prime is pretty much done, except we go back to the legs here, and these side canisters we'll do last. And then you can push these together. Once everything's locked together, this stuff stays locked a lot nicer. And then his feet, I told you they slid out, so you're actually going to slide them as far out as you can. And the feet actually have tabs too to hold together, which are always a pain to try to get to lock in. But once they lock in, they kind of give a little more stability to the back, in my opinion. Though they don't lock easy, that's for sure. And that was just my plate sliding on top of the other. So now it's all locked in back here, and you're going to take these chrome bits and just kind of plug them in to what is the waist. Oh, I unlocked everything on the legs again. This back piece, locking this all together, is definitely the biggest issue. But when you're done, you have a pretty nice, really nice looking truck. Oh, I forgot the mirrors. They just slide out, that's all. Just flip them on out. And you've got a really great looking truck mode. Yes, you see Optimus Prime's waist. The back part of the truck may be sitting a little bit high. But really, I mean, look how great that front end looks. That is probably the best looking front end since Generation 1 Prime. And in fact, I think he outdoes Generation 1 Prime. So, of course, what is Optimus Prime without his trailer? Which is ultimately the reason I decided to get this guy, because I kind of figured we would end up getting him as a US release, probably without his trailer. And frankly, this Prime just looks so darn good, I couldn't imagine having him without his trailer. So, the trailer just kind of slots in there, and it does have a rotator. And now you got an awesome looking incarnation of Generation 1 Prime with his trailer. For size comparison purposes, like I said, MP-10, much bigger, much heavier. But really, that front end, you know, once you look at the new MP-10 here, you can just see that it's just a much nicer looking truck. We can move to the iGear version, which just looks really sad comparatively. It just doesn't, well, mine has problems in a couple areas staying together anyway, so combine it with the fact that the truck looks kind of and that's what you get. Now, Rodimus, like I said, throw a scale out the window as we put Hot Rod, who is a ridiculously large car comparatively, almost as long as the trailer. So that's pretty long. Moving down the line, whoops, we can take this knockoff Prime. I'm not going to worry about his smokestacks. And here he is with the G3 trailer. The G3 trailer is almost exactly the same size as the new Masterpiece trailer. Yeah, so almost a similar truck size too, a little bit smaller, but not too bad. Let's move down to good old Generation 1 Prime. Well, the reissue at least. And assuming I've got this on correct, I do not. Like I said, this is the best looking Freightliner cab over engine alt mode we've ever got, because even G1 Prime has to have room for his fists, and I would say up until now G1 Prime has had the best incarnation of his alt mode, to be honest. And we can move further down the line to the hybrid style, which is an awesome little toy but suffers immensely due to the front end cab syndrome, but smaller nonetheless. Legends. And finally, world's smallest. So it's a fun little size comparison. Throwing in the cars again, you can see the Alternity GTR looks really good next to it. And finally, the last thing, we can open up the chest here again, and we can take our little Spike and we can make him sit here. And one of the sockets where his hand used to be now is a little seat for Spike. Close it up and Spike is driving Optimus Prime. Okay, so final thoughts on this guy. Is he worth his price tag? Well, it depends on how you define his worth. He's certainly not going to be for everyone, and if it wasn't for the fact that I was selling some things, in fact I think PPO1U is going up on the selling block, probably wouldn't have got him. But he's just an awesome looking version of Prime, and if you can get rid of some things from your collection that you don't want and, you know, get the funding to get him, I say do it. Certainly don't ruin, you know, your finances in your house for him. Now, some people say he's not worth the cost because MPO1, you know, is heavier, there's more die cast on it. This guy doesn't have much die cast. Where is the value in it? And the value comes from that the truck looks like this, and the engineering is great, and he's just a little more complex than Grimlock to transform. Now, if you like complexity and that makes the dollar value, then get Alternatives, because a lot of them are a pain to transform. In fact, Cliff Jumper, when I was trying to do him for this review today, took me about an hour to get from alt mode to bot mode because the steering wheel got caught under the seat. So if that's what you're looking for, there's other ways to get complexity for cheaper. If it's weight you're looking for, it's kind of a poor indicator of price, to be honest. MPO1 was designed many years ago. There's different costs associated with hiring the engineers now to work on the engineering and the materials. So yes, MPO4 is roughly the same cost as MP-10 with a bigger trailer and a bigger cab, but the engineering's been done for 10 years now, you know? You got toys like this, yeah, he's complex. He has almost no die cast in him. About the same amount as Optimus here. It's a good toy, but the transformation, at least on the very first one, was so mind-blowingly irritating to try to get all four wheels to touch the ground that it actually made it not fun. Fortunately, the later releases have fixed that, but look at like Masterpiece Megatron. I'll never transform that guy back into his alt mode because everything just swings around and it's so complex, and I've seen so many times where he's broken on people that I've done it once. That's all I ever need to see of it. So when I can have a Masterpiece that's like Prime, like Grimlock, who really aren't, you know, necessarily the most complex to transform, but they're successful in both modes, that's worth it to me. And I can see kind of where the price went on this. It is high. I don't recommend it for everyone. I think if you can sell stuff and afford it, do it. If not, grab the American release of the cab at least when it comes out, because it's by far the best looking Optimus we've ever had. So, this is T2RX6. I hope you guys enjoyed the review. I will see you next week with a much shorter review. See you guys.